Welcome, Climate Viewers. My name is Jim Lee from Climate Viewer News. It is March 1st, 2015, and I have a very exciting show for you today about the CIA National Academy of Science Geoengineering, Climate Intervention Report. Today we are going to discuss in detail the semantics of politics of climate atmospheric modification. You cannot think an idea without a word. You cannot Google search for an idea without a word. And just talking about people modifying the sky, it's getting really complicated. Weather modification, geoengineering, climate intervention. There's lots of terms being thrown around. Just recently, the whole internet was abuzz with tales of the CIA being involved in geoengineering studies. Well, those papers were released, and there was a follow-up webcast with the National Academy of Sciences, and I was there. So this happened just the other day on the 26th, and we are going to look at that real quick. So this is in reference to the article on Climate Viewer News, the CIA, Weather Warfare, and Climate Terrorism. And in this paper, you'll see that it's 9 pages long. It's very lengthy. This is for the detail-oriented people that want to know every detail. We're going to keep it simple today. And the gist of the story is Alan Robach, climate scientist, geoengineering guy, says, I got a phone call from 2 men who said they were from consultants for the CIA, and we'd like to know if some other country was controlling our climate, would we know it? And, that sparked, fires across the internet. Everybody's like, oh, my God. And, it just reaffirms what we already know in, our neck of the woods that, climate warfare is ongoing. It's, all about the almighty dollar and water. And people are playing tug of war in the sky. One person wants to make it rain. One person wants to make the hail stop. And another person wants to do weather warfare. But we're not going to focus on all those gory details. We're going to really just hone in on the CIA report itself. So, like I said the other day, here we'll go back to that other one real quick. The other day, the Board of Atmospheric Sciences and Climate had a webinar, which you had to register for, which I did. Very nosy. And I went in, and they were going to talk about CDR and reflecting sunlight to cool the Earth. As you can see here, they've got a little report on it. You can read it. This is the one that everybody's fussing about. It's called Climate Intervention, Reflecting Sunlight to Cool Earth. Now, this is already controversial. Just the title is very controversial. We'll get to that in a minute. But basically, they had this webinar here. These people were doing the discussion. And, you were allowed to ask questions at the end. I recorded the whole webinar. So it's very interesting. You can go through this. I'm going to be uploading this in the next week. Been very busy. Our website's been hit pretty hard. So I have just run my mouth. We're going to get into this in just a second, all the details, and really flesh it out. I would be remiss to not introduce my lovely guests here. I'm going to leave this slide up on the screen for a minute for those reading at home and not paying attention to me talking. I would like to welcome the ever-beautiful, ever-popular Marie McLaughlin, our classically trained homeopath, and Bill Narr, my right-hand man. Apparently that's still playing. Let's leave that paused. And Bill and Marie are both members of Climate Viewer News. They both have hosted sites on Climate Viewer News, and they write for us. And we have Chris Fontenot from A Microwave Planet. Chris was nice enough to make me a co-admin over there, so we talk about resonations and microwave vibrations over there. So I'd like to welcome all three of you. How you guys doing? Just what's up?
Great. I'm glad to be here.
It's gonna be interesting, man. It's gonna be real interesting. So
in the end, cowards are those who follow the dark side.
Isn't that true? That is absolutely right. Round of applause for that. Definitely. So dark side. We're gonna save the dark side for the end of the show, Bill. I'm just gonna give a teaser for your show tomorrow. I'm not gonna get too deep in the in the slave speak rabbit hole.
Do what you have to, brother. Do what you have to.
I'm gonna do what I can when I can, and if I can't, I ain't.
Can rest.
Yeah. So this thing went really interesting. I'm not gonna like wax for hours on the whole thing. It was about an hour and 20 minutes long. And they bring up a lot of good points, but just the fact I'm completely utterly against people blocking out the sun or doing any more atmospheric modification until we know who already is. I mean, would you guys agree with that? Do you think it's okay for governments of the world to be planning to control the temperature of the globe when we already have so many people modifying the weather on a daily basis and it's not publicly disclosed? We don't know what the chemical and just the bioaccumulation hazards of all these chemicals they're using to do these modifications already. And then you compound that with all the problems that are going to be associated with future geoengineering. What do you guys think? I mean, do you think enough's enough?
It's not nice. It's not nice to fool Mother Nature.
No, it's shocking. Shocking that they just do this without permission. There's no conversation about it. But can I just ask you, Jim, were you the only layperson, so to speak, on that webinar?
Well, it says attendees, and it was just me.
Wow. Well, that's volumes, really.
But I can't say that for certain because it said we have another question, and it was questions from other people. So I'm assuming that the attendees could not see each other. That sounds crazy to me.
I doubt
but basically, I asked my first question, and you can see it here. Hold on. I think that's it right there. Yeah. Why does this report not address ongoing climate intervention technologies such as cloud seeding and cloud ionization technologies? There is no global registry of ongoing weather modification in geoengineering field projects.
Good question.
The dude's response was priceless. They gave the canned public relations response. Climate is it's like global, and like we're just doing temperature, bro. Weather, that's like local. I mean, you're talking about local versus like we're just doing temperature. And I understand, Dr. Waleed Abdalati, no disrespect to you, but don't bullshit me like that. And
But this is scalar, Jim. It's scalar. So on a localized level, it works on the same functionality that it does on a global level. It's just a matter of application. Who has access to present that application globally?
Yeah, exactly.
Military does, governments do, but who runs governments? Nothing but corporations. So who are those corporations?
I agree, dude. And there's so many people already involved in it. The scale of it is no longer local.
Right.
When you're talking about cloud seeding projects that run the entire Rocky Mountains, you know what I mean? They're orographic, ground-based seeders. They burn all winter long. Some do even past that, and they do artificial snowpack augmentation where they cover the mountaintops in fake snow to keep up with the water demands on the West Coast that are running out.
Yet mainstream thinks that's functional.
Yes, they think like the crux of the problem is that they're talking about CO2, and they're only talking about CO2 when it is neither the cause nor the solution of the problem, in my opinion. When
it's an electrochemical process. It's not just a chemical process.
Yeah. I mean, it's all relate. My point is this: that we barely understand the relations of the different layers of the atmosphere and how the chemicals mix and match, and how the processes of how things interreact. It's called the butterfly effect.
Right on.
We don't understand the butterfly effect of our, increasingly large experiments.
Yes.
So how much has the language in this changed? Where's the semantics issues?
Well, it comes right up in the title, and they even did hashtag climate intervention.
Well, that's the obvious.
Yeah, so intervention. Let's pick this apart. Climate encompasses the biosphere, all of it as a whole. So that word is proper. I won't argue with climate, but intervention. Intervention's a television show, and there's usually a crackhead, and the crackhead is going to die if you don't stop him. Am I wrong?
No.
It's just wordsmith. That's all it is wordsmith corrupting the meanings of everything.
Yeah. And I mean, it's cute and all, and I appreciate what you're trying to do, but it's unbelievable that they keep trying to rebrand such a generic idea. Screwing with Mother Nature, taking control of weather. Redneck call it weather control. I won't call it weather control because in the end, you cannot tell me that this stuff isn't dangerous. That just blocking some sunlight isn't gonna affect weather. And we know that's crazy. What do you think about that, Chris? If you block incoming sunlight out, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, a multitude of things happen. The ionized energy would be reflected back up, and if they coated that with a blanket of aerosols, it would create a column of potential in the ionosphere, and then they could store more energy in those layers of potential. So it's, if they look at this on a global scale, inducing that potential and holding it into the upper atmosphere would create more energy to be dispersed at will.
On a human level, what's that going to do to vitamin D production? Because being outside in sunlight, vitamin D, is that going to have an effect?
Tesla wrote about it in excess about the problems of increased human energy, and what that means is that increased vibrational field and increased power density will change our metabolism, and we'll have to change our eating habits.
So then it will affect our vitamin D production. No sun, no vitamin D.
Absolutely.
All right, so here's the 5 take-home points from this whole climate engineering, climate intervention BS. This was posted on the 18th after the paper. So this guy makes some pretty good points. Governance is needed, indeed, everything. And he's basically saying if we don't write some laws, this could get crazy. He says to flesh out the report's call for a more transparent and open process of deliberation on climate engineering. Even this dude's writing the paper. He's like, F that. Will climate intervention rebranding stick? Okay?
Yeah.
This is priceless.
I have issues with that terminology, transparent. Transparent to me means you can't see it.
Yeah, true. Or I see right through you. So here's what he says. I'll be interested to learn what others make of the move by authors of the NAS, this National Academy of Science, aka the CIA-funded report, to rebrand the entire climate engineering enterprise as climate intervention. Holly Buck in the FCEA roundup of responses to the NAS report suggests that climate intervention is a, quote, more accurate and less hubristic term than geoengineering.
Hubristic.
In part because it shifts the focus from natural to socio-ecological systems. Oh, your brain.
Return of Babel.
Yeah, this is all every word of this is bullshit. But anyway, personally, I'm happy to just stick with the climate engineering so long as the word engineering is understood as something more than a production of new technological artifacts. Okay? Say that again. So long as the word engineering is understood as something more than a production of new technological artifacts. So we're not just building new machines, we're engineering the whole system anyway. And besides, now that the forum for the climate engineering assessment, that was the FCEA he just mentioned, the Forum for Climate Engineering Assessment has settled on a name, we're not eager to change it. So this is at the DC Geoengineering Consortium website, Forum for Climate Engineering Assessment. So
Let me.
It's it's kind of like Dane Wigington with Geoengineering Watch. How could he ever call it anything but geoengineering? I've already picked a name. I got a URL.
We didn't decide about this name right here.
Yeah. Now, do you see a lie in this anywhere?
No, this response here is priceless. I mean, I agree with most of what the dude even says, and he even goes into the termination effect. I didn't want to get into this, but yeah, he says on albedo modification. Albedo modification, another word for blocking the sunlight, aka solar radiation management, aka stratospheric aerosol injection, aka SRM.
I mean, albedo being a reference to the harmonic balance of the Earth, correct?
The reflective, the amount of energy coming in and going out. So how much is being, albedo is a measure of reflectivity most of the part. How much of the energy is being absorbed by the planet and retained here, and how much versus how much is being reflected back to space. So to modify the albedo of the world means to
human resonance.
It's sunscreen, bro. It's what we do every day we go on the beach. Except these guys want to dump nanoparticle aluminum, nanoparticle sized sulfur, which will be sulfuric acid, all the way in the stratosphere. So we're talking at anywhere from 100 to 200 kilometers in the sky. So that this stuff takes a year to 2 years to fall out of the sky. So basically they're going to make a dust cloud or an acid cloud, which will cover the entire Earth, or just targeted locations, as they say. And this will cool us off so that all the CO2 that's heating the planet can be offset until we can get some clean technology. Well,
that's the cover story, but what do you think the real objective is?
Oh, I stated pretty clearly in this article right here, this is climate terrorism, but it's 9 pages long, and you would have to read it to actually understand.
Yeah.
And I could literally, it would take me 3 hours to explain in detail all of it. You know what I mean? And nobody could ever do that in one spot. So
I agree. It's not a 15-minute question, but in the end goal, they're trying to, in my opinion, they're trying to establish a control of a global energy circuit.
Yeah, it's about control, because now they're really starting to understand a little better some of the other effects that have not been really looked into up to this point. So
and nothing could go wrong either, right?
Yeah. So let's stick with the words for just a little bit longer, and then we'll get into all those butterfly effects. So I want to make a point here. Let's do this. Bring this up and over
Well, now,
here.
when you look at climate intervention versus geoengineering, doesn't that kind of like, to me, it's kind of like, well, climate intervention seems to put me at ease versus geoengineering.
That's what it is. It's the soft selling it.
If I were to say,
in the public relations world, that is called framing.
Right on, man.
Framing.
If you didn't know and I said sustainable living, what would you think if you didn't know?
That's all good.
That sounds great, man. I want some of that stuff.
Versus Agenda 21.
Right on. Or the Codex Alimentarius.
Oh, that one's even scarier.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lisa Jean in chat says, God, this constant name changes is like the classic shell game. Just confuse them with terminology and they won't figure out what we're doing. And yeah, there's another term for the shell game is also compartmentalization.
That's right.
Another reason why you might want to change from geoengineering to climate engineering to climate intervention is in a year from now, people will still be Googling geoengineering?
Right. Yeah. It's battle. Essentially, they're dividing us with language.
Well, in the end, there's so many people in the chemtrail community that are calling it geoengineering. I mean, they have, made up their mind that it's geoengineering. And geoengineering is a very broad term. So, by definition, it does, by their original definition of geoengineering, that fits the bill, baby. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you a big old I told you so.
You've got a picture of gold there.
Okay, so this is Ken Caldera's Geoengineering Forum. In this forum, you will see everybody's favorite chemtrail Darth Vader, Mick West. He knows about geoengineers. He talks to them all the time and tells them how crazy all the, you know, the chemtrailers are. But anyway, so I come in here and I make a point, and we won't even get into this one. But anyway, I respond to these geoengineering dudes. If the intention is to reduce global temperature, this is dated, August 10th, 2013. Okay, this is me on Ken Caldera's geoengineering forum debating the geoengineers and trying to prove my point. This is freaking priceless today with this climate intervention crap. So I had to go dig it up. I've been searching for about an hour to try to find it. Do you consider reduced rainfall as a result of geoengineering SRM weather control or unintended side effects? Okay. Now this unintended side effects, SRM geoengineering, how to deal with the losers. You guys seeing this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And basically, this is the crux of what's going on. They know that SRM might create more floods, droughts, heat waves, or all kinds of stuff that basically some indigenous people on an island nation who rely on their crops may never ever see rain again. The reason why this is true, geoengineering, SRM, solar radiation management, blocking out the sunlight by spraying chemicals in the sky is a way of mimicking what volcanoes already do naturally.
Right on. And volcanoes also have an electrical phenomenon associated with it.
They do. They do. They have a large electric. In fact, now they're looking at earthquakes and volcanoes. A precursor to them is heating of the ionosphere above them.
That's Dr. Papu Yang's work, and he has an excellent model for determining that.
Yeah, and there's in fact they're now saying that the science behind the coupling of the ionosphere and earthquakes is so strong that in I believe it was Italy, they put some freaking seismologists in jail for not warning them of an earthquake.
Yeah, I remember that story.
This is insane. So they understand that all these are related. Excuse me. Go ahead, Chris.
I'm surprised they didn't hang him.
I mean, it's just insane, right? So this is what it's really all about: is how to pay the dead people who'll never see rain again. Sounds like some big ass weather modification to me.
Yes.
So that was my first point here. I said, so if the intention is to reduce global temperature, why do you refer to it as local climate? When I'm talking about weather modification up here. Basically, Gene's like, the goal is not, this is Gene, Jesus, I can't see his name there. Anyway, I think it slips my mind. These are all people related. These are scientists and people related to geoengineering. The goal is not weather modification or anything to do with weather, but to alter control slightly, he bolds that, the average local long-term temperature, i.e. local climate modification, not weather control. Local climate modification, there's another term. Holy crap. You know what I mean?
You
How many
can't
terms you got?
compartmentalize that. It's all connected.
So, yeah, he says not weather control. Hence, your comments on controlling weather offer no insight into a totally different issue. Limited control of solar transmission through the local atmosphere may be an adequate objective and may be viable on a local basis. Listen here, you could try to sound like you're using big words, but he's basically saying local control of solar transmission. We're talking about SRM through maybe an adequate objective and maybe viable on a local basis. So might actually, dude, are you kidding me? Are you freaking kidding me? So this is my response. All right.
Maybe might.
I say, well, if that's the
case,
case, yeah. I mean, he's just argument and semantics. This is all this geoengineering debate semantics.
Yeah.
Do you consider the creation of artificial clouds weather control or climate modification? I don't even know what these are. And I said these are just words. And I'm probably sure that goes to my other one. Anyway, okay, we'll throw that out. Talk for another day. Right here, this is the important part. So these dudes, come back. John Latham and Ken Caldera respond to me. All right. John Latham is a Silver Lining boat. He does the cloud albedo modification boats, and he gives an interesting argument. Links will be in the details. Not going to read it. TLDR. Ken Caldera. He says, Jim, why are you attempting to imply by sending out something with the heading, Bill Gates and world's top geoengineers collaborate on patents, hurricane protection for cash? Now, I wrote that article. Ken didn't like it, all right? And for those who don't know who Ken Caldera is, you probably should do some reading on geoengineering. Anyway, so Ken didn't like that. He says, is your implication that Bill Gates sees geoengineering as an easy way to pick up a little extra cash, or is he acting out of his self-interest, or do you really believe this? I said, hurricane protection for cash. So which is it? Are you? Then he gets pissed off, and then all right. Here's the important part. Exactly who are you referring to as world's top geoengineers? All right. So Ken Caldera does not like me calling him a world top geoengineer, and I'm cool with that, bro. I understand you don't like it. Here's the problem with that. So I respond. I stand by the heading for the following reasons. And then I give my references. But this is the important part. I said, this returns to Ms. Gordon's statement about local climate modification, not weather control. In the above quoted patent, it is referred to as ecological alteration. Now this is a patent. All right, I'm going to show you guys this real quick. Let me get back up here. This patent is called hurricane steering. You can see right here. Water alteration structure risk management or ecological alteration management systems and methods. Ecological alteration management system. That's frickin' geoengineering, just so you know. Yeah, and they called it ecological alteration. I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to keep up with all these terms you guys got? So this is what I say to them. This is priceless. In that patent, and just so we can all be clear that I'm not making this crap up, Bill Gates, William H. Gates, Ken Caldera, all right, John Latham, Steven Salter, and Nathan Mervhold, the patent troll from Intellectual Ventures. Anyway, so 3 geoengineers that I know of. The rest of these guys, I'm not very familiar with them. I will be getting familiar with you. These 3 geoengineers got with Bill Gates and a patent troll and decided to make a hurricane modification patent where they accept cash from the public for steering hurricanes. It was going to be like a Department of Homeland Security funded thing, and I go into all that. They actually did that with the hurricane aerosol microphysics program. Talk for another day. So anyway, Bill Gates and Ken Caldera pissed off. I called him a geoengineer, and I'm like, what do you want me to do about it? He doesn't like it. So world's top geoengineers. As far as I know it, nobody in the world is engaged in geoengineering. Would you say world's top tennis players if nobody ever played tennis? I mean, that's funny.
How much would it cost to get a hurricane on Bohemian Grove right about meeting time?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's out of our budget. This is only for the big players.
Gotta have $50 around here somewhere.
But you see how he just like totally skips over the fact that, dude, you're talking about, oh wait, y'all are geoengineers and you're only talking about coating the sky and chemicals, but what are you talking about steering hurricanes for, bro?
Yeah, he's not even addressing the issue at all.
Yeah, what are your qualifications to be involved in steering hurricanes? Because as far as I know it, Noah and Storm Fury and steering a hurricane back into Georgia and killing people meant we're not going to do that again, and they told them so. They said we're not going to do it again. Yet here goes, these geoengineers doing hurricane modification. Well, it turns out hurricane modification is now known as hurricane mitigation geoengineering in government documents I'm reading. So terms, very annoying. So I says to the guy, which is it? Geoengineering, weather modification, weather control, climate modification, ecological alteration, or climate engineering? Okay, so now here we are. They finally got off all this shit with the geoengineering and all this and started calling it climate engineering. If you go Google climate engineering, you will see that that is now the acceptable term. Climate Engineering Conference 2014. All of it. They rebranded it after I asked that question. I was like, how many more times do you want me to call you a geoengineer before you tell me what the hell to call you?
Great
Okay?
point, Jim. Great point.
So that really started up, Climate Engineers Inc. After that, it became Climate Engineering. And I guess that was a little selfish on my part since I made Climate Viewer News to get them to get rid of the geo and put a climate in there for me. But so they went to climate engineering, and I agree more with that term because it is. You're trying to engineer the entire climate. So that's what they stuck with until these guys come along calling it climate intervention. Like, well, the climate's broke. If we don't get in there and intervene, the damn thing could die.
But with the outrage in the community between contrail, chemtrail, geoengineering, weather modification, isn't this kind of like taking the fear out of the topic by changing the name to this?
It's essentially conditioning us to the conversation. It's bringing it to the forefront in our views and in our news.
I agree.
They want to look like heroes, don't they? They want to look like they're saving us from, some cataclysm.
And then when someone talks about climate intervention, if you haven't been following the story, who's going to know what they're talking about?
Yeah.
Right on.
Sorry, Jim.
No, it's all good. They had this thing. Hold on. I think I just found it that quick. That'd be too lucky. I never find anything that fast. All right, so here's Ken Caldera again. We're back on the Geoengineering Forum. This is Ken Caldera's own forum. That's why he's always here talking. He's K. Caldera, and his name and phone number and address are right here at the bottom, so you can know it's him. Here, let's give him a little click-see. That's Ken Caldera for those of you who don't know him.
Oh, I know this guy. Oh, God.
I just want to make sure we all know who we're talking about here. I did, so
it
silly
may cause problems in some of the places, some of the times. Oh, yes, I know this guy. Ugh.
Okay. Well, I mean, he used to be an anti-nuclear activist. He fights on behalf of the coral reefs. He's a pretty agreeable guy. I mean, I think I would love to talk to him on the phone. It doesn't take the phone call. So we'll have to hook that up in the future. But, I'd love to hear his side of the story of it. David Keith apparently is very amenable to talking to people, but that's beside the point. So here you see that this is a quantitative evaluation of the public response to climate engineering. This is dated January 2014. So when I posed the question, what the hell do you want me to call you, we're talking, this is less than 5 months later. Everybody's calling it climate engineering. And I come over here and I say, I pretty much agree with every damn thing they said in this, And I even went and wrote an article, as a kind of congratulatory, effort, saying, yes, they're listening, But anyway, Ken Caldera comes back with this crap. The cited study claims to minimize framing effects as if bias were avoidable and the idea of a value-neutral framing were a coherent concept. We need studies that explore the effects of framing.
What?
And framing is how you box the picture, how you make that TV look, how you take the idea and you frame it for a person.
Frame an argument.
Isn't it
boxing
also
that in? You cover it on both ends. It's a Hegelian dialectic.
Isn't it also compartmentalizing?
Yeah. Framing is kind of like this. When you look through a picture frame, you see what you're allowed to see.
Yeah.
In one picture here, you see an American soldier helping an Iraqi soldier. He is pouring water in his head. He is even cradling his head. In this picture, you see a soldier with a gun to an American's head, This will be in your ISIS email inbox tomorrow. This is the whole picture, which shows both somebody holding his head and this guy going, hey, we're trying to help you, but if you try to stab us, I'm probably going to shoot you. That is framing.
This is what Common Core does and Common Purpose. They're all about reframing how the police are taught, trained, how medicine works. It's going on, it's been going on, and it's a charity. You've got it in America, and we have it here. Here it's called Common Purpose, there it's called Common Core.
Precisely.
It's evil, really evil.
And this brings you to your slave speak article, the anatomy of slave speak.
Yeah, so we're down to our last 10 minutes. I don't want to drag this one out today. I just wanted to kind of just do the word game with you guys and say, don't allow these people to just change the words on you. Just throw climate intervention up there, and then all of a sudden that'd be magically better. Yay! You know what? When you frame it that way, and that's exactly what Ken Caldera is saying right here. Lost my link, but anyway, that's what he was saying there. It was basically hey guys, if you frame it this way, we can get away with this. People, it'll just a little bit of sugar helps medicine go down.
The arrogance is just incredible.
Wow.
Yeah. So rename it climate intervention. We're gonna forego geoengineering. That's gone. We're gonna get rid of climate engineering. Too creepy. People don't like the word engineering, apparently. But intervention, I love that show. I love seeing people save stuff.
Hero.
Isn't it amazing, the power of words, Bill?
Yes, it is. Oh my God, is it ever?
It's so sad. So I was sitting at this freaking, at this NAS meeting going, are you kidding me? The whole way through, I can't believe they're doing this to me. It was kind of classic. I thought that I'd actually get some points in there, but they answered my one question pretty piss poorly, and I was like, that's nice. Mention NMOD, I dare you. At the end, I just started harassing them. It was really, really funny moment, and you'll hear it when I upload it. Somebody asked a question: is there anybody working on global governance of the SRM issue, the blocking sunlight issue? And I said, SRMGI. There was a pause and they were freaking lost. They had no idea what was going on. So I was like, oh, SRMGI. And then the guy goes, is it the SRMGI? And I was like, you're welcome. It's right there. Yep, you're welcome. So I'm like, are you shitting me that I'm sitting here with a board of PhD guys. The question is asked about that, and none of them there's no way they didn't know that. Is my point. So I'm like SRMGI, and sure as hell, Solar Radiation Management Governance Initiative. That's the group that's working on controlling the climate globally and setting the laws and who gets paid when they die.
And you think they know, and they were just kind of keeping it under their hats?
I don't know, but there was this long pause, and I was like, SRMGI, damn it, what are you guys doing? Oh my God, I'm sitting here with my high school diploma and a box of popcorn and want to, oh God.
Pass the popcorn.
But you see the bigger picture, Jim, and they are really compartmentalized. They're not looking at the bigger picture. They're looking at just their little remit, their little world. So they probably didn't know the name of that, whatever that is.
That's a distinct possibility. And I always want to hope for the best in people, but I expect the worst.
But there's got to be somebody looking at the bigger picture.
Speaking of the bigger picture, I'd like to relate this to science and the same issues going on with nomenclature and terminology within that realm. You look at plasma cosmology and the basic cosmologist versus astronomers who differ in language, and then you look at electrical engineers' perceptions of those things in the electric universe and how they perceive the connections versus the terminology being used. For instance, black holes. That's a huge issue right now. And what are they? Are they Birkeland current connections?
Well, how best do you control a group of people? A person, a group of people, or a society?
You change your language.
Well, that's the most important one. Then there's also money. And then there is, I know, third one, fear, but there's another word puts it in that category. Violence. So fear would come under violence. You know, when somebody writes a letter to you or something demanding something, technically that's a violent statement, because if you don't do this, this is going to happen.
Right on.
So they're controlling us by the words. And when you're talking about, you know, the two different fields you were saying, they have two different languages, the electricians versus the astronomers, but they're all meaning the same thing. When you get into politics, they've got their language. When you get into law, they've got their language.
Precisely.
You have to be experts at their language to understand what's going on.
The babble.
Well, let's give you. We were talking about it earlier. I finally found the page. It's on page 7 of the CIA weather warfare thing. And when you get to page 7, it's hurricane hacking. And this is the thing. After Hurricane Katrina in 2005, the DHS took an interest in mitigating hurricanes with the help of Bill Gates and some of the top geoengineering SRM scientists. Notice I didn't call them geoengineers. Don't get me started. When the DHS approached NOAA with the proposal to fund hurricane modification projects, NOAA declined, citing their past failures with Project Storm Fury. And you can go and click the links, I'll reference. But
let me ask a stupid. Okay,
go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Mitigating. What does mitigating mean?
Armor mitigates the damage from a bullet.
Gotcha.
To mitigate is to make less, to lessen. So to mitigate the damage from a hurricane is to lessen the monetary, physical, and environmental losses attributed to hurricanes. So this is climate intervention. Get it?
Yeah.
Hurricane Sandy Hurricane Katrina cost billions of dollars in damage, and more importantly, the biggest PR punch in the eye those punk-ass 3-letter agencies could ever get, because they massively failed to help those people.
Yes.
You know, so in order to mitigate public embarrassment, probably more than monetary losses of, you know, interested parties, this is about control. It's about control.
Extortion. Yeah. You pay enough money, we'll make sure a hurricane don't hit you.
Yeah. And I mean, that's exactly what was going on in their patent. And you looked at the patent application, it went through several revisions up here, okay? And they called it a couple different things. But one of the revisions literally had that. It was like, notify interested party that a hurricane's coming. Tell them that for X amount of dollars we can make it go somewhere else. So I was over on Ken Caldera's forum going, don't you realize that if you steer a hurricane away from an oil field towards a ghetto, you just killed people. Not Mother Nature.
But there's another side to this too. If you pay us this money, if you don't pay us this money, we'll make sure the hurricane hits you.
Yeah. So these are the guys that went and did it.
What did I say about that when you proposed that he would be responsible for killing people? What was his reply?
He had no response. You know, it's the way they just all right, now I'll shut up because you know I'm right.
Yeah.
The minute you grab the wheel, you break, you buy.
Right on.
You break, you buy. You do geoengineering SRM, you kill people. I am going to be leading a horde of mofos to come get you guys and talk to you very severely. Make sure that whoever elected you or funded you never can again. I don't know what we'll have to do to make sure that this stops, but these very stupid people with PhDs who think that they can frame their way out of what they're doing are delusional.
I'm going to issue a strong reprimand, put somebody in the corner.
Yeah, I mean, somebody needs a serious freaking timeout.
You know, the thing that strikes me there is that Bill Gates is the one that's bankrolling it, and he's behind so many of these really kind of creepy, reframed, projects like vaccinations, and here we go with managing the weather, saving us from our climate.
So this is on page 7 of the CIA weather warfare, climate terrorism on the front page of Climate Viewer. And, this is what they propose. Field projects with cloud seeding with sea salt aerosol to enhance cloud albedo, and I put in cloud brightening. That's SRM, using salt water sprayed from a boat up into a cloud. All right, that's John Latham, Stephen Salter. It's called the Silver Lining Project. I saved this picture today on my desktop. Let me grab it from here. Come here.
Of course, we have to acknowledge Gates' involvement in the eugenics movement and his father's association with Planned Parenthood and abortion in America. So that's all connected.
Yeah, so this page has been deleted from the internet. They're no longer really attributing themselves to the name, but as you can see here, John Latham, Stephen Salter, and all these dudes, Robert Wood, most of the guys that were on that hurricane patent. I'm recognizing some new names from that patent anyway. So basically, John Latham and Stephen Salter, if you go on Ken Caldera's forum, they'll talk to you. Stephen Salter has been very nice to me. In fact, when I asked him about this DHS hurricane modification thing, he gave me the entire report. This article is up on ClimateViewer as well, Hurricane Hacking, the DHS report. And as you can see right here, it was Source School of Engineering at the University of Edinburgh. This came from Stephen Salter. So that's SHS of Stephen Salter's stuff. So he let me in there. He's just like, here's all of my research, bro, on hurricanes. Go get it.
Beautiful.
And I started looking through it, and I was like, Department of Homeland Security. Let me read that. But these geoengineering guys, most of them are very transparent now, and I appreciate that from them. I don't fully agree with what they're doing.
He's old. He's old. He's 76 years old. I'm looking.
Yeah.
Is he the same guy? So maybe the fact that he's older, he would like to be more honest.
Well, I don't think any of these people are evil. I mean, I honestly believe that a lot of it has to do with compartmentalization, and they don't realize the full ramifications of what this will lead to. But, they said cloud seeding, sea salt, aerosol. This is John Latham and Stephen Salter's Silver Lining Project. As you can see here, this is the page has been deleted. I want to point something out here. This research is currently undertaken by the distinguished scientists and engineers at Manchester University, Leeds University, NCAR. Bill, NCAR.
Yes, I hear you.
So NCAR, everybody who's interested in weather modification or geoengineering needs to get familiar with NCAR. It's the National Company for Atmospheric Research. So it's the National Center for Atmospheric Research and the University Corporation for Atmospheric Research, NCAR, UCAR. They're out of Boulder, Colorado, and they basically could handle all of the weather modification research in America.
Who's organizing for them globally, though? The World Meteorological Organization?
Who knows? I mean, this stuff, it's fly by night. You never know who's going to get in on this thing. But the point being, they've been at this weather modification crap for the better part of 60 years, and they don't know what they're doing. They just had this thing called the Wyoming Pilot Project, where they tried to once again prove that cloud seeding is predictable, and they failed miserably. And this is the ground-based seeders we were talking about, that they have all along the Rocky Mountains. But literally, here's the results. Analysis showed that cloud seeding produced a 3% increase in precipitation, with a 28% probability that result happened by chance.
That's reassuring.
Yeah,
that's without any type of electromagnetic perturbation, right?
No, they had Doppler radars pointed at it left and right, trying to guarantee that this would be proven. They failed miserably.
That 3% and 28% is with modification, right?
Exactly. So they gave it their best shot, and after 60 years of doing this, they still don't know what the hell they're doing. It's all gambling. I mean, it is an experiment. Every single time they cloud seed, they do not know what the outcomes will be. They do not know what the butterfly effects will be, and they damn sure aren't going to take responsibility if something goes wrong.
So the Indian medicine man still has as good a chance to getting something done as these guys do. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. In fact, I'm more inclined to believe that that's safer. But yeah, so in the end, the real climate intervention needs to happen by just acknowledging the overwhelming amount of individuals currently altering the weather to make crazy weather. You cannot blame climate extremes and crazy weather solely on CO2 until you acknowledge who's controlling the weather. You know what I mean? We need somebody to admit that this problem is bigger than it is. It's not just CO2. It's not a climate intervention. The climate's not going to die if we don't intervene. I think it's going to die if we continue to intervene.
And what about people?
Hmm?
What about people? How many of us are going to die while they do this?
Well, I think if you're in one of the Five Eyes nations, you're probably going to be pretty well off, but everybody else is going to get screwed. And, you know, it should not come down to who's got the most money or who's got the most interest or whose stakeholders, you know, matter the most.
Always does.
I didn't do that.
That was me.
Okay.
It really shouldn't come down to that. So that, you know, that's pretty much what I got for that. And, you know, I wanted to really get into how, you know, all this relates, you know, from the ionosphere down, but we'll have to do that next week. Chris, I want to have you on here and let's really wax on some electrical universe. One last example.
It's a two-headed snake. You can't cover the electromagnetic without covering the particulate. So you do an excellent job with that.
It's worse than a two-headed snake. It's a hydra.
Yeah.
Right.
You cut one off, another one grows.
Yep. So how does slave speak play into all of this, Jim?
Slave speak is the language used to maintain the master-slave relationship. If you are willing to accept the term climate intervention as a real term that should be given its proper day in court and usage, then you will give your power to that. I'm saying do not submit to this slave speak jargon coming out of the NAS. They are trying to engineer our climate. Climate engineering is good enough. We don't need a climate intervention.
Because I mean, it's gonna be a nightmare. You know, you got the guys on the trail side, you got the guys on the chemtrail side, you got the weather modification, the geoengineers, the climate mitigation, all of this stuff that are doing research on that. And I'm talking, you know, the general public novice kind of thing. Once they change that, if they don't know this name change, they won't have the information.
And it's been well framed. Very
well framed.
And I'm going to post this video on Ken Caldera's forum in response to this whole thing here after we get done, and see what they have to say. Maybe they'll respond to our 1 hour conversation about how silly their rebranding is, and we'll get their input. But go ahead, Marie. I'm sorry.
Shine light. I'm saying shine the light on them, and then they kind of go, "Oh, I've got no clothes on."
Yeah, they have that aha moment, like.
Just make them famous, Jim.
Say what?
Make them famous.
Well, I'm going to continue to just come on here and read their little comments out and make it, you know, some public record for a different kind of public, and we'll see how this works out. But you know, I think that what they're doing, when you look at the Department of Homeland Security thing, this is my last point on this. They're already geoengineering, doing field projects. When you're doing salt seeding tests, carbon black aerosols, upper ocean cooling with the Salter sink, Stephen Salter's straw in the ocean, ion generators, get the F out. And then it just says seeding. What does that even mean? You don't even want to tell me what that means? And
Seeding.
Monolayer films. Do you know what monolayer films are, Bill?
Nanoparticle.
It's a oily residue. They pour it on top of the ocean. It's to make it's to stop as much water from going up into the clouds to fuel the thing. So like when you get the hot water and everything.
Hurricane suppression.
Yeah, so they pour different, like Dynagel is one I've heard of, where they pour chemicals across the surface of the ocean. Anyway, horrible stuff.
Must love that.
It's just horrible. And they're experimenting on this. They've had 2 experiments so far that I know of. One was for the Department of Homeland Security. It was called HAMP, the Hurricane Aerosol Microphysics Program. And then the other one was the NASA GRIP, Genesis and Rapid Intensification Program. So they've already done some geoengineering. And if you don't believe me, this is how we're going to put it to bed. Can hurricanes be tamed? Scientists propose novel cloud seeding method. And this is from InsideClimateNews.org. Winner of the Pulitzer Prize. Anyway, other large-scale geoengineering proposals to mitigate hurricanes have price tags estimated in the multiple billions.
I've always said follow the money.
Geoengineering proposals to mitigate hurricanes have price tags in the multiple billions. Horrible.
How dare they? Oh, how dare they?
Wow.
Okay.
So, this is all available at
Well, Jim,
the
good on
CIA
you.
Weather Warfare. Huh?
Good on you for pointing it out, that you're watching them so closely and you know what you're talking about. So thank God that someone's paying attention.
It's horrible, the doublespeak that they have going, where when the guys who've been modifying the weather for 60 years fail miserably at the Wyoming pilot project and can only come up with a 3% difference in rain, you failed. These guys have been trying for 60 years. Along comes geoengineering in 1994 from the Lawrence Livermore National Lab. So this is less than, well, we're going on 20 years? 10 years? Wait, 94. Anyway, almost 20 years.
Yeah, 2014 was 20 years.
21 years, isn't that?
So they got like 40 more to go to be able to get a 3% chance of knowing what the hell they're talking about, in my opinion.
Wow.
These guys are the new kids on the block, is my point. Geoengineering guys, new kids on the block. If the cloud seeding guys who do this every day can't prove that they know what they're doing, we do not understand how complex our atmosphere is. We should not be meddling in it to the level that we currently are. And until we have a moratorium on weather modification, until every single person who is currently modifying the weather stops for a 2-year period, we will not even have a baseline reading of what natural weather is.
Here, here.
Yep.
So that's my personal statement to the geoengineering science communities, and especially Ken Caldera, who's famous for his geoengineering models. Your model is flawed if you don't have a full assessment of who is currently altering the system. If the system is altered, you do not have a baseline. It is altered every single day by hundreds of different individuals, and you couldn't possibly know what's going on. Please do some research.
Jim, implementation, but yet a regulation?
My solution to it is, so far, it's just very simple. It's like a rudimentary idea. If you click on weather control at the top of climateviewer.com, you can scroll down to here, right past the video, and it's called the Clarity Clause. And basically, I'm saying let's verify the NMOD Act, which was, passed in 1978. To detect when people are doing rogue geoengineering, to know when people are doing cloud seeding, to have an international website that tells me, today there were 45 cloud seeding experiments in China, 32 in Russia, 45 in America, and then a database that has a map. Oh, wait.
No different than a reporting of an earthquake.
Right. So,
with less censorship.
Right. So that's what I built at climateviewer.com. For them. All you got to do is come ask me. I'll go give it to you. And this is what the system was for, was to do something similar to this. You go to pollution. This is at climateviewer.com/3D. Scroll down here and you will see Weather Modification Association. Here's the 2012 reported activities in America. So you'd have a map. It will look like this. It's in 3D. Pretty cool. And you can click on them, and it'll say, you know, this is in Clark County, 2,850 square miles was seeded for augmenting snow.
That's a great map.
That's perfect. That's all I need to know. 3,000 square miles, the Walker Basin Project in Nevada. Desert Research Institute did it. Desert Terminal Lakes Program paid for it. Augment snow. These are those ground-based seeders I was telling you about. They're on the backsides of mountains.
Materials they use for seeding, and I'd like to know what potential they get used in frequency oscillation.
Yeah, and you just follow the mountains up. That's where they're doing it at. So let me bring up the rest of them real quick. And I've got a couple more here. What's going on with my map? The button not working. My first fail of the day. It would come at the end. There it goes. All right, so there's the rest of them. And this is only just a small portion of them. I've got maybe a year and a half worth of the Weather Modification Association. So what I want to see is one that's updated live. When people are going to modify the weather or do an atmospheric experiment, we know about it. Here's the last thing I want to make a point about. These are the Earth Observing Field Labs. Let's see if it comes up. It's acting stupid. I'm going to have to fix that. All right, so the Earth Observing Laboratory Global Field Projects. This is from NCAR, the National Center for Atmospheric Research, Earth Observing Laboratory. NCAR is weather modification, is weather control studies, is where you need to go if you want to find out about these things. Here is their global map of projects. See the white dots? And each one of these, they're pretty crazy. EndoX. Now, I hear about these on chemtrail websites all over the place. I have a map of all of them. So get in here and look at these things. And these are aerosol studies of how clouds transport. And this is Marine Atmospheric Chemistry, 1994. Some of these are like global trend. Thorpex, Pacific Asian Regional Campaign, TPARC. You know, and this shows you all the places that they were studying. So these are how they learn to control the weather, how they come up with the models that Ken Caldera and these guys are coming. This one's called HIPPO, Hyper Pole-to-Pole Observations. This is actually a HARP one, I believe. No. Pole-to-pole observations of carbon cycle of greenhouse gases studies. Interesting. I heard pole-to-pole, I'm thinking one hop like the harp, but anyway. Lots of them over here in America too, and you can come through these precipitation projects. Snowed under Erica, experiment on rapidly intensifying cyclones over the Atlantic, 88 to 89.
88.
Huh?
In 1988.
Yeah.
They were doing that.
Come over here, and all of these you can click links. You'll end up on the NCAR-UCAR website, and you'll see the Erica project. Where they did it, what they did. Here's our tape logs and here video log. Ooh, you got video? Page not found.
Have you mapped Project Storm Fury?
Yeah, I've got all that on here.
That goes back to '61.
Yep. Sure enough. I mentioned it on the article on the CIA thing.
Great data.
So, you know, my point is we need a global database of all of these experiments so we can see who's currently modifying the weather. Because as you can see, there's lots of different experiments and lots of cloud seeding projects. Oh, and then you got all these dudes with the radars and the, ionization technology talking about moving atmospheric rivers. It's getting kind of freaky. You know what I mean?
Can we get an home address for those people responsible for the modification?
Actually, you can. If you go to Geoengineering, go to Weather Control on our Climate Viewer website, and you scroll down here to this one. It says Weather Modification Corporations, Universities, and Derivatives Traders. I went and made a yellow pages of weather modification companies because I needed to keep up with all.
There's no there.
Yeah. And it just goes through the list. So university, of course, there's the National Center for Atmospheric Research. And there's a quote under that. It says, since 1996, NCAR's, here, let me make that big. Since 1996, NCAR's Rainfall Enhancement Research Program has received more than 95% of its funding from outside the U.S. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Offshore accounts.
Yeah, see, Honorable Mark Udall, this is before a weather modification thing. Anyway, so that's where that came from. This is on UCAR's website. But outside of the U.S., and you want to know where it comes from? The Hebrew University at Jerusalem.
That's where the funding's coming from.
Yeah. Israel funds a lot of the weather modification over America. It's crazy. Yeah. So this is my list, and I've got government, military, U.S. Air Force, the different links to the different people, like Bureau of Reclamation right here, and you'll see that this is on the USBR site, and it's something about weather modification, obviously. There you go. Walker River Basin Cloud Seeding Project, U.S. Bureau of Interior, U.S. Department of the Interior Bureau of Reclamation, 2010. Walker River Basin Cloud Seeding Project. Government involved in cloud seeding on mountains. This is, all been known to me for a long time. I'm trying to get people to understand how big this problem is, to understand that, with so many individuals currently controlling, steering, getting every drop of rain they can out, we can't let this go on without, really holding these people, to the fire and saying, we need to know who's doing this, when they're doing it, what effect it's currently had before we can proceed.
Yeah, because without that knowledge, you can't pursue for damages if they've done something to hurt somebody.
Right.
But here's my question. Isn't there already in place a permitting and application process through government and state officials to allow for these projects to go on? I know Texas has an application process for seeding or weather modification. They even have a board.
Yeah, they do. And
they're just not letting us in on that database.
No, actually, we have that. I have that as well. You can call NOAA. At least in America, there's laws where you have to, you're supposed to call and fill out these two forms right here. Here, I'll bring it up real quick. Initial report on weather modification activities. It goes to NOAA. You have to fill it out, and you basically put in there description of weather modification apparatus, modification agents, and their dispersal rates, the techniques employed, etc. You're supposed to just write in there, hey man, I'm gonna make it rain in my backyard for 24 hours with 10 grams of sodium perchlorate. Sound good?
I'm gonna make a tornado next week.
Seriously. Well, if you're gonna make a tornado next week you have to fill this one out, and it's the follow-up. Oh wait! Oh crap! I did it. Look at that! I got the same picture in both.
The company in England, Oliver's Travels, that can arrange for you to have lovely weather for your wedding or whatever your occasion is. They must have, because they're so upfront about it, they must have some kind of official, okay to go ahead. Surely, there must be a form like that for the UK.
There's a mechanism. There is a bureaucratic mechanism to allow for it through application and permitting. And so we know it's in place in some states, not all, perhaps.
I don't know. How is the UN involved in all of this?
Well, I know the World Meteorological Organization funded a lot of this in third world countries. They've implemented Doppler radar facilities, phased array radar facilities, and they're spraying now.
There it is. Jim brought it up.
The World Weather
I'm just thinking there's one central
expert team on weather modification.
I got to mute out.
So yeah, they're involved in it as well. These are the heads of the World Meteorological Organization's expert team on weather modification. As you can see right there, NCAR. And the Tel Aviv University in Israel. Just saying. And then there's also China, Japan, Russia, Thailand, India. Everybody get on this. Japan. These are the people. These are the heads of each country in their technical field that know about weather modification. They are all members of the World Meteorological Organization's expert team.
I sent a couple of them emails and they hadn't responded.
They even have what I'm talking about was a registry that tells you who did what, where, and when. And this is the best they've got. The last it was updated was 2006. So we don't know what's happened worldwide past there. And then in America, we have they do them every year. They come like this from NOAA, real quick, and they look like this. So, you know, it'll say operator, sponsor, who's paying for it, and what they're doing. Snowpack, snow, precipitation augmentation, snowpack, increased precipitation, rainfall, hail suppression, and you can see weather modification incorporated, paid for by the North Dakota Atmospheric Resource Board.
So we're supposed to believe that weather modification only pertains to some type of precipitation.
Right. That's what they're trying to make the distinction. These guys are making local weather, and geoengineers are going to cool the planet off, which has nothing to do with local weather. But if geoengineering can change precipitation patterns around the globe, then some of these guys are never going to see rain again. Kind of like what's going on in California.
Right on.
With the Dust Bowl. Last point, with the Dust Bowl, this all happened before. And what did we do to alleviate the climate change debate with the Dust Bowl? We planted over 200 million trees.
Yes.
So I'm just saying that enough of this kind of trying to wrench every drop of water out of the sky and control everything while blaming it on CO2, and let's focus a little more on planting some damn trees, because that sure would be nice. And there are people out there actually saying that now. Nicaragua, carbon sink, economic driver, medicinal plant preservation, winner of the Climate Collab test. This is the kind of stuff that we need to be doing. Let's plant trees. Trees suck CO2 out the dang sky, and we won't need to coat the sky in chemicals. Enough.
Well, I've been talking to people up and down, like Vancouver, British Columbia, North Coast, West Coast, and it seems to be a pattern in it. I mean, it's even here that cedar trees are dying off without any explanation, and now we're starting to see where the evergreens are starting to show the same kind of stresses that the cedars did when they started dying off.
Well, not to forget that trees are fractal antennas essentially, and they conduct current to lure currents into the atmosphere and vice versa.
So I'm just wondering, where the comparison is here with these modification plans that they're doing.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of talk about, the effects of electricity on trees. I'm not going to say anything. Never mind. I don't even want to talk about that today, because I'm about to put my foot in my mouth and talk about somebody. Let's not even bring that up.
Oh, knock it in the head, man. Shoot.
No, because I'll dig a big old hole, and I won't probably be able to crawl out without putting my foot in my mouth a couple times.
No, Jim, the only time I open my mouth is to change feet.
I can understand that. So, guys, I really appreciate you guys coming today. I had to really try to work through this. I mean, what do you think? Climate engineering, climate intervention, geoengineering, does it really matter? I mean,
well, yeah, because climate intervention's kind of like, oh, well, it's okay. Whereas geoengineering is a little bit more harsh, and people are paying attention to it, wanting answers, wanting something done. And like you say, framing and compartmentalization, it takes the focus off.
Well, yeah, and to be very clear, the trees they planted after the Dust Bowl, that's geoengineering. That is engineering the geo. So I see that we have done massive geoengineering projects in the past, and they were sustainable and clean. I mean, planting trees, it's a good thing. Why aren't we doing that today? There are a lot of people in the chemtrail world. They use geoengineering. That is engineering the geo, I guess.
If we just stopped using trees, Jim.
Well, the whole issue here is to create a tax so somebody can get rich.
Yeah.
Well, you know what they call it in the science world, right? Anthropogenic sources.
Yes.
So, anthropogenic sources are the cause of climate change, and that encompasses everything from dirty coal emissions to the water vapor that comes from nuclear plants and the heat that's transferred in that water vapor, and water vapor coming from chemtrails, and all of these are aerosols, electricity. There are too many variables, and they still don't understand but a fraction of them, and that's my point. And when you couple that with the fact that people are actively modifying the sky, don't blame it on CO2, and don't try to sell that crap to me till you deal with those problems.
Right on.
So, any thoughts on that before we go? I mean, I know. I've been. This is one that I'm kind of really passionate about. Oh Lord, I've been fighting with these guys for so many years about terminology, and they will continue to evolve their terminology and try to bury their search results and try to reframe this debate so that it's palatable to the public, to the average Joe Blow in a gas station says, "What? Climate's going to die? Well, hell, get up there and spray."
Oh, it's just intervention. It doesn't mean anything serious.
Yeah. We have
Jim,
really got to prevent that. Yes, ma'am.
I'm really looking forward to 2 years of nothing happening, just like a break from it all. Wouldn't that just be brilliant?
It would be great. So, yeah, with that, support the clarity clause and, look at my draft legislation. I would like to propose this to the UN and say, hey, you guys banned hostile environmental modifications, but you never made a system to find out if somebody was doing it. So how about make that, and we'll have a nice day knowing at least who's modifying the weather.
Yeah. Well, you got all of these underdeveloped countries that are starting to do the same thing now. I mean, Indonesia's getting hot and heavy in cloud seeding. Are they going to follow through? Because you get some of those rogue governments that don't care.
I know.
I think we've got rogue governments that don't care.
Well, we've already had our first rogue geoengineer. His name was Russ George, and he dumped iron in the ocean. We may have a rogue geoengineer now with the aviation industry and the cloudy skies. The answer is we really don't know. We don't have a system to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt who's modifying the weather, and that alone should be cause for action.
Absolutely.
And concern.
Well, guys, I would really like to thank you all for coming. You've been very helpful.
Very good, Jim. You did an excellent presentation.
That was great.
Great job, Jim.
I know lots more now. I won't remember it, though. Sorry.
Well, I'm going to be doing this regularly at 4 o'clock each Sunday. I'll be announcing the next one out a little earlier so people can get a better heads up. And I really appreciate you guys coming. Chris, you're definitely going to have to come next week because we're going to wax on HARP and some of that stuff.
BS Weekly will be up tomorrow from 5 to 7 Eastern Standard Time.
And tomorrow, I'm going to come on Bill's show, and we're going to get into the actual slave speak stuff that we've been mentioning this whole article, or this whole video. So if you go over to climateviewer.com and click on propaganda, you can scroll down just a little bit here to the Jedi Mind Trick, and you will see the anatomy of slave speak. This is about how words control a dialogue, how they control your mind, and how people frame your mind with words. And that's what we've been discussing here today, just on the surface. If you'd like to know more, please read The Anatomy of Slave Speak and check out Bill Nara's show tomorrow, BS Weekly. It'll be at 5 o'clock on Climate Viewer TV, so climateviewer.com/TV. Again, thank you to the lovely Marie. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Chris. And unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. Love you, mean it.